What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on these two guys you see on the screen, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, right? So I was watching the first game I watched the Ravens play the Cincinnati Bengals, right? And so going into that game, I knew that the Ravens wasn't going to beat that game. I'm a Ravens fan, but I just knew, man. I just knew it just for some reason I knew that Lamar Jackson was not going to play up to the ability at that as that kid. What's the guy named Joe Burrows? I knew that Joe Burrows was just going to outplay him, and then sure enough, you got Lamar Jackson fumbling, and he just didn't play good that game, right? And so I don't know, man. I blame that on the coach. That's why I bring it up because the Ravens throughout since John Harbaugh's his tenure at the Ravens, and he's been there for a long time, 8 years with Lamar. He's been there for a long time, and so people try to say that he's a good coach and all this other stuff, but I just think that the Ravens have been like an opportunistic team. They benefited from having weak schedules, and then but they never really could beat the good teams. They can't get past let me see, they wouldn't be able to get past no matter who the good teams, they can't get past them. Can't get past Buffalo, can't get past Kansas City. Whenever they play those big games, whoever the team is, they always seem to have a turnover and a crucial time or a fumble or interception or something like that. And to me, that just goes to coaching. I just think that the message that comes from John Harbaugh, in my opinion, is probably just stale and played out. Just needs to, I just think they need a change, like some new leadership in there for the Ravens, right? And that's not a bad thing. The same thing happened with Andy Reid when Andy Reid was when he was in Philly. Andy Reid had he had success in Philly. He was a really good coach. In my opinion, I thought Andy Reid was a good coach when he was in Philly. He had Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, and I thought he did some things. They made it to the Super Bowl one year. They didn't win, but I thought Andy Reid was a good coach. I think that this guy John Harbaugh is a good coach, but I just think that it's time for him to leave Baltimore, man, because for some reason now I don't even now not that Harbaugh is as good a coach as Andy Reid, which he's not. He come from the Andy Reid tree, but he is not Andy Reid, right? He was a special teams coach with Andy Reid, but he's not Andy Reid, and he don't like I just leave it at that. He's not Andy Reid, but I do think that his message uh and his time in Baltimore, I think, is overdue. We can never seem to get past those good teams. We always get outplayed in the playoffs. We turnovers and stuff like that. So it's time for him to leave. Now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I never, again with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has been in Pittsburgh even longer than John Harbaugh has been in Baltimore. As a matter of fact, I think Mike Tomlin is the longest tenured coach in the NFL right now. And I think it's time for Mike Tomlin to go. I keep hearing people say, well, Mike Tomlin is a good coach. Just think about this. What I was told yesterday by somebody when I asked them this question: should Mike Tomlin be on the hot seat? Well, they said no because Mike Tomlin. Look at what Mike Tomlin has had to deal with, as far as players and stuff like that, right? Mike Tomlin hasn't had a good quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. Well, if that might be true, but still, you have to coach with what's in front of you, and like, so how many opportunities you got to find a way to develop these guys. Whatever guys you get, you got to make the best of them, and you got to be able to develop them. And again, I'm gonna go to Andy Reid. Nobody said, like Donovan McNabb was Andy Reid's quarterback, and he made the best out of that situation. Then when he had Mike Vick, he made the best out of that situation with Mike Vick. And so you just got to coach the players that you have. and press conferences and stuff, listening to Mike Tomlin, all that stuff sound good. He say the right things, but it's not it's not turning into the results that I'm sure that Pittsburgh Steelers fans want. And I say that because even yesterday when the Steelers was playing the Buffalo Bills, they started chanting, they started chanting fire him out there, right? And once they started chanting fire him, a friend of mine just reached out to me like, Mike, um, you were right. I think Tomlin is going to be on a hot seat. And I was like, yeah, man, how many, and I know the Steelers is a type of organization where I think they only had three coaches throughout their that I can recall, only three coaches. You know, yeah, I can only recall three coaches. I can't remember their names right now. Um, but and so the Steelers are known for sticking by their coaches. But I don't know, man. Maybe if maybe Mike Tomlin might want out of there. If you're a good coach, though, I expect to see results from Mike Tomlin and from John Harbaugh. And being a Raven fan, I just don't get it for John Harbaugh, man. I just, like I said, they beat teams, easy weak teams and stuff like that, and then they celebrate those. I'm just not impressed, and they even pump him up talking about in preseason how he's undefeated or he has a great preseason record, but that don't count. It don't count. I want to see you be able to beat teams like Buffalo. I want to see you be able to beat Kansas City when it count. We saw Jalen Hurts do it, and the coach. I don't know the coach name in Philly, but they did it. They had to go through KC, Kansas City to get a championship, and they did it. They had to beat Buffalo, and they beat them. And they can win. They proved that they can win the big games with Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, I don't think he that much better than Lamar Jackson. But they did it and they made it happen. So I just blame this on coaches, man, and the fans in Baltimore and the fans in Pittsburgh, man, just tired of it. This year that NFC, the AFC North, man, just looks to me. You got Pittsburgh at the top with a 6-6 record. Baltimore also at top with Pittsburgh with a 6-6 record. Then you have who's the third place team? Then you have Cincinnati Bengals. I think they have like 4 wins. Who else is it? Then you have Cleveland. I think Cleveland have 3 wins. Now, those two teams, Cleveland and Cincinnati, I'm not, because their coaches are new or haven't been there as long as the Baltimore and the Pittsburgh coaches. I'm not so much in a hurry to say that you should get rid of those coaches. Especially not Stefanski. I think Stefanski, haven't been there long enough to really prove what he can do and not at Cleveland. And like I said, the coach in Cincinnati, he coaching through a whole bunch of injuries and stuff like that, especially with his quarterback, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrows came back, man, on Thanksgiving Day and lit the Ravens up, man. He played like Lamar Jackson should have played. Like he came back and played like he has been the one who has been playing, and wasn't coming back off an injury. And Lamar Jackson played, and I knew that was going to happen. I had absolutely no faith in the Baltimore Ravens when they was playing against the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Number one, you're talking about an in conference, rival, and division rival. So I knew they was gonna play them tough like they always play. But it's time for these two coaches, man, to go. That's my take on it. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Do y'all agree that it's time for Harbaugh to leave Baltimore? Time for Mike Tomlin to leave Pittsburgh? I think the fans in Pittsburgh they already chanting for this guy to get out of there, man. So yeah, I think both of them. I wouldn't say they lost the locker room, but I don't know, man. To me, I think it's time for both of these coaches to go. And so that's my take on it. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.